Datang kembali, baik yang berada di kota Cirebon yang bergabung secara langsung dengan kami di Gedung Kreatif Center Ahmad Juhara, Kota Cirebon, maupun Bapak dan Ibu yang bergabung secara daring melalui aplikasi Zoom. Selamat datang, welcome back to all the participants at Connecti 2021. As the first program, marilah kita menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya, singing Indonesia's national anthem. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Sampurasun. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the opening ceremony of Connecti 2021. Bapak dan Ibu, selamat datang di acara pembukaan Connecti 2021. Dan izinkan saya di dalam kesempatan yang berbahagia ini untuk menyambut terlebih dahulu kehadiran para tamu undangan khusus. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to firstly welcome to the attendance of special invited guests. Firstly, the Honorable the Governor of West Java, Bapak Ridwan Kamil, who have joined us via online. And second, the Honorable Deputy of Entrepreneurship from the Ministry of Cooperatives and Small Medium Enterprises, Republic of Indonesia, Ibu Siti Aziza. The Honorable the Secretary of Commission 2 of West Java House of Representatives, Bapak Yunandar Ruhyadi Eka Perwira. The Honorable the Mayor of Cirebon, Bapak Nasruddin Aziz. The Honorable the Head of West Java Tourism and Culture Department, Bapak Dedi Taufik. The Honorable the leaders and representatives from foreign cultural and business institutions, the head of departments in charge of creative economy in all regencies and cities in West Java, the Honorable directors of universities and Institute of Higher Education in West Java, the Honorable the leaders of business incubators in West Java, the Honorable the leaders of creative economy committees and associations in West Java, and also the Honorable speakers who have joined us today. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, pertama-tama marilah kita panjatkan puji dan syukur atas kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena atas limpahan rahmat, taufik, serta hidayahnya lah kita semua dapat berkumpul dalam keadaan sehat walafiat di siang hari ini, baik yang hadir secara langsung di Gedung Kreatif Center Ahmad Juhara, Kota Cirebon, maupun yang telah bergabung secara daring. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let us say grace to the God Almighty. It is because His continued blessing that we are able to gather here both offline and online to witness the opening ceremony of Connecti 2021. And it is an honor for me, Agi Rahmawati, to be your host for today's event. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, selanjutnya saya mohon kesediaan dari Bapak dan Ibu semua untuk bersama kita menundukkan kepala dan berdoa, utamanya berdoa demi kelancaran acara kita pada hari ini, dan semoga kita semua diberikan keselamatan dan kesehatan. And next, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite to all participants to bow our head down and pray, mainly for the success of our event today, and may we all be given safety and health. Bapak dan Ibu, berdoa dimulai. Prayer begins. Selesai. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Connecti 2021 follows up the previous conference in 2019 that attempted to map creative hubs and their impacts to regional development and provides a platform for all stakeholders in creative economy sector, particularly in West Java cities and regencies, to present their most updated achievements and progress. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin kami hormati, Connecti 2021 ini melanjutkan konferensi sebelumnya di tahun 2019 yang mencoba memetakan Creative Hub dan dampaknya terhadap pembangunan di daerah, yang menyediakan juga platform untuk semua pemangku kepentingan di kabupaten kota di Jawa Barat dan menyajikan presentasi tentang pencapaian dan kemajuan terbaru. In Connecti 2021, we are going to invite distinguished speakers for exchanges of knowledge and sharing of experiences in the roles of creative economy sector as a strategy for the post-pandemic recovery, creating resilient and adaptive society through creative and culture-based industry at local and regional levels. And this event is also held as a celebration of the International Year of the Creative Economy for Sustainable Development with Indonesia as the initiator. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, di Connecti 2021 ini kami mengundang pembicara dari berbagai sektor baik dari dalam maupun luar negeri untuk pertukaran pengetahuan dan berbagi pengalaman pada peran sektor ekonomi kreatif sebagai strategi pemulihan pasca pandemi dan juga untuk menciptakan masyarakat yang ulet dan adaptif melalui industri kreatif dan berbasis budaya di tingkat lokal dan regional. Dan juga kegiatan ini dilaksanakan sebagai bentuk perayaan Tahun Ekonomi Kreatif Internasional yang ditetapkan oleh Persatuan Bangsa-Bangsa untuk pembangunan yang berkelanjutan. And this event is held by the government of West Java in collaboration with Kreasi Jabar, ICCN, British Council, and Kultur Lokal. Dan event ini diselenggarakan oleh pemerintah Provinsi Jawa Barat bekerja sama dengan Kreasi Jabar, ICCN, British Council, dan Kultur Lokal. Kita berikan tepuk tangan dulu Bapak dan Ibu semuanya untuk Connecti 2021. And for the first program of this opening ceremony, we will listen to the welcoming remarks and the report of the committee of today's event, which will be delivered by the Honorable Head of West Java Culture and Tourism Department. Untuk itu saya mengundang Kepala Dinas Pariwisata dan Kebudayaan Provinsi Jawa Barat untuk dapat menyampaikan sambutan dan laporannya. Kepada Bapak Dr. Haji Dedi Taufik MSI, kami persilahkan dengan hormat.
Baik, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome our honorable guest and speaker to Connecti 2021 with the theme of enhancing the role of Creative Hub as an epicenter for inclusive and sustainable regional development that will be held on 21st until 22nd of September 2021. We are so glad to have you all there here today. We appreciate your presence at this difficult time. We would like to extend a special welcome to our speaker and audience that join in this event that feature of 10 national and international prominent speakers through online platform and direct attendance in Cirebon that will be inviting over 500 participants. Connectivity was first initiated by the West Java Tourism and Culture Department on 2019, with the purpose of developing network and sharing knowledge among creative economy stakeholders in West Java. 2021 continue to support the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021, along with the Creative Hub that play an important role to boost the development of creative economy in city and regency level. Currently, the Creative Center in West Java are one Creative Center in Bandung, two Creative Center recently launched in Bogor and Cirebon, 5 Creative Center in development, Subang Regency, Bekasi City, Purwakarta Regency, Sumedang Regency, and Tasikmalaya City. Creative Center shall be in line with the development of the organization to boost West Java creative economy. Currently, there are 13 non-structural organizations in regency and city level. Bandung, Cimahi, Sukabumi, Tasikmalaya on the city level. Majalengka, Bandung, West Bandung Regency, Karawang Regency, Subang, Cianjur, Kuningan, Purwakarta, and Bogor on the regional level. The governance support has been delivered through the Governor Regulation number 44 of 2021 in regards to the Creative Economy Action Plan of West Java 2021 until 2025. By the year of 2025, this action plan is targeted to achieve 11,000 trained creative workers and entrepreneurs, 50 flagship creative economy activity, 22 new non-structural organizations, 192 collaborative initiative, Bajo Flores Tourism Authority Board Indonesia. We sincerely hope that this event will gather wide range of ideas and discussion around the ways that we can make positive contribution to enhance a sustainable regional development. Thank you again to everyone for your participation. We couldn't have pulled off this event without your sincere work and dedication. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih kami haturkan kepada Bapak Dr. Haji Dedi Taufik MSI yang tadi telah menyampaikan sambutan sekaligus laporan penyelenggaraan kegiatan Connectivity 2021. Thank you very much Bapak Dedi Taufik. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, selanjutnya kita akan simak bersama sambutan yang dirangkaikan dengan kata-kata pembukaan acara Connectivity 2021. Next, we will witness the opening remarks from the Governor of West Java. Untuk itu, kepada Gubernur Jawa Barat, Bapak Ridwan Kamil, kami silahkan dengan hormat.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, Honorable Ibu Siti Aziza from Kementerian Koperasi dan UMKM, Honorable Bapak Yunanda Rohyadi Eka Perwira, Sekretaris Komisi 2 DPRD Jawa Barat, Bapak Dedi Taufik, Kepala Dinas Pariwisata Kebudayaan, para Kepala Perangkat Daerah, also our international speakers, my dear friend Mr. Nicolas Boucho, President of the Grand Paris Alliance France, also Mr. John Newbegin, the Chairman of the International Advisory Council of Creative Industry UK, and all national speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, I think as we know, 2021, United Nations has established the International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021 with Indonesia, our country, as the initiator. The leadership of Indonesia in this implementation is highly anticipated through various collaboration initiatives in the national and global level. As you know, also next year, 2022, Indonesia will have a presidency for G20, and of course, one of the agenda would be to carry the creative economy strategy to achieve sustainable development goals in 2030, or 9 years from now. And as you know, we are the biggest province in Indonesia, also having a biggest creative economy portion. Therefore, West Java is fully committed to support this International Year of Creative Economy for Sustainable Development 2021. We are actively always promoting to create a creative economy that is resilient, inclusive, and also sustainable in the midst of pandemic era. I want to report to you also that as per today, our COVID-19 situation is under control. Our bed occupancy ratio in West Java is only 7%, down from 91% from last July. So we are now preparing to live with COVID as an endemic, no more as a pandemic. And we would like to see more productive event, productive activity come back to our economy. One of the strongest economy that we are expecting to come back is the creative economy and also tourism. As you know, many strategies has been done by us in West Java. Number one, we are creating the regulation this year, and what we call it the Creative Economy Action Plan for the next 4 years. So we have the blueprint, we have the action plan for the next 4 years. We also established the first in Indonesia, the Committee for Creative Economy and Innovation. So in local, we call it Kreasi. It was established last year. It's a combination of pentahelix collaboration. So we include the ABCGM, academia, business, community, government, and media as part of this important organization to bring and to advise the West Java government in order to create a better creative economy and strong innovation. In infrastructure, we have also preparing to build all cities and regencies in West Java to have a place for exchange ideas, for seminar studies, for exhibiting creative works that we call Creative Center. This year, we had launched around 2 locations, one in the west in the city of Bogor, one in the east in the city of Cirebon. Cirebon now is hosting this event. So we are hoping all cities and regencies will have this creative space as a space for igniting more innovation and creativity. Before a governor, I was a city mayor. I established also similar facilities in the city of Bandung. And I'm happy COVID is now under control and we are looking for more ideas. So I also hoping speakers in the next 2 days will highlight also what is our new creative economy in the post-COVID world, yeah, because COVID disruption created a new paradigm, a new way of thinking, a new adaptation of life. So we would like to see whether our strategy of creative economy is similar or shifting to more more digital oriented, more health oriented kind of concept. I think we need also. We are also creating a 7 new economy. One of the economy we are focusing is the green economy. So we are hoping combination of sustainable green economy with creative economy will create a new way of thinking in our regions. We have 50 million people. We have many talented individuals. As you know, West Java is always #1 when it comes to investment because we have 3 strengths. #1 is infrastructure is much better compared to other region. We will have a high-speed train coming next year. We'll be the first in ASEAN. We are also always quoted as the most productive people in Indonesia, and also a better service for investment and business also. And for sustainable economy, I'm happy to say I'm the first governor and official to use electric vehicle EV as my official car. We are last week with President Jokowi initiated groundbreaking to build the biggest industry in ASEAN producing the electric battery for EV, for example. And we are producing 2 hours ago. I was initiating the solar panel on the top of factory roof. So it will be mandatory for all the roof, starting with the industrial facility roof, to have a solar panel. Yeah, we are now bidding for waste to energy and many more. So it means sustainable economy, green economy is the #1 priority for West Java, combined with the adaptive creative economy. I'm hoping West Java can become the leaders and the most progressive region when it comes to innovation. So that it's our goals. Yeah. So I think more or less that is my remarks. I wishing all of you a success of event, and please come back to me for recommendation. What should we do after the event, and we will implement it, all the findings and recommendation to West Java policy. And now, finally, without the further ado, I hereby officially open the connectivity. Let me repeat again. Without further ado, I hereby officially open the Connecti International Conference on Creative Economy 2021. Connecti, let's get connected. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ya, terima kasih kami haturkan kepada Bapak Ridwan Kamil selaku Gubernur Jawa Barat yang tadi telah secara resmi membuka rangkaian acara Connectivity 2021. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Connecti City 2021 is officially open. Kita berikan tepuk tangan dulu Bapak dan Ibu. Ya, dan selanjutnya kami persilahkan Bapak Ridwan Kamil untuk dapat meninggalkan ruangan Zoom untuk melanjutkan agenda kerja yang lainnya. Terima kasih sekali lagi kami haturkan atas kehadiran Bapak Ridwan Kamil selaku Gubernur Jawa Barat.
Kamu begini nutupin kameranya jadi ketutup.
Baik, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, kita akan langsung memasuki sesi pembicara di siang hari ini. Sudah ada 4 pembicara yang akan membagikan best practices, sharing knowledge-nya juga kepada Bapak dan Ibu semuanya. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now enter the session of this afternoon. We will have 4 speakers who will present their presentation, sharing their knowledge and also sharing their best practices for you. And the first speaker, I would like to invite the Deputy of Entrepreneurship from the Minister of Cooperatives and Small and Medium Enterprises, Ibu Siti Azizah. Untuk speaker yang pertama, pembicara yang pertama, saya mengundang Deputi Kewirausahaan dari Kementerian Koperasi dan Usaha Kecil Menengah, Ibu Insinyur Siti Azizah MBA. Apakah sudah bergabung? Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ibu Siti, apa kabar?
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah baik-baik, Mbak.
Alhamdulillah, terima kasih Ibu telah meluangkan waktunya pada hari ini dan juga nanti akan berbicara langsung kepada para peserta dari Connecti City 2021 ini. Boleh diceritakan sedikit mungkin Bu, temanya apa yang akan diangkat di presentasi Ibu kali ini?
Oke, so basically mengenai dampak atau masa depan dari ekonomi kreatif. Jadi saya akan mulai dengan pemaparan mengenai dampak dari pandemi ini sendiri hingga nanti seperti apa masa depan dari ekonomi kreatif, UMKM ekonomi kreatif. So basically I will deliver in English and Indonesia ya Mbak Agi ya, karena materialnya sebagian bahasa Indonesia, sebagian bahasa Inggris. But anyway, I will try to do my best untuk deliver dengan 2 bahasa, insya Allah.
Thank you very much Ibu Siti. Untuk itu selanjutnya saya langsung persilahkan saja kepada Ibu untuk dapat memaparkan presentasinya.
Baik, terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Mr. Yunandar Ruhyadi Eka Prawira, ST, the Secretary of Commission 2 of West Java House of Representatives, Mr. Dr. Andes Nasruddin Aziz, SH, the Manager of Cirebon, Dr. Haji Dedi Taufik, MSc, the Head of West Java Tourism and Culture Department, the leader and representative from Foreign Cultural and Business Institution, the Head of Department in charge of Creative Economy in all regencies and city in West Java, Directors of Universities and Institute of Higher Education in West Java, the leaders of business incubators in West Java, and the leaders of creative economy committees and association in West Java. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Sebelumnya, kami mohon maaf karena Bapak Menteri berhalangan hadir pada hari ini dan beliau menugaskan saya untuk menyampaikan pemaparan mengenai future SMEs in economic creative or in creative industries. Mohon dibantu slide-nya boleh? Oke, so basically bisa halaman 1, next. Okay, so this is actually the data of small and medium enterprises impacted by COVID-19. Kalau kita lihat, there is 18.87, ada yang terdampak karena produksinya terhambat. Kemudian ada 23% itu mengalami penurunan dalam segi sales atau permintaan. Kemudian kesulitan bahan baku sebesar 19,08%. Dan terhambatnya distribusi sebesar 19,5% dan akses permodalan sebesar 19,45%. So this is basically all the data about the small and medium enterprises impacted by COVID-19. So as you will see, there are a lot of reasons, but this is the most problem that we face or the UMKM faces. And on the sektor industri, sektor usaha, itu banyak sekali memang yang terdampak, terutama adalah akomodasi makanan dan minuman sebesar 35,89%, perdagangan besar, eceran sebesar 5,3%, kemudian industri pengolahan sebesar 17,8%, aktivitas jasa, pertanian, perhutanan, perikanan, dan transportasi dan logistik. Nah, memang ini beberapa sektor di dunia usaha yang mengalami dampak dari COVID-19. Berikutnya, boleh. If we look at today's environment in the small medium enterprises, so if you see there is a triangle, but the biggest chunk is in the bottom, which is micro business or micro at about 63 million or 99% of the population. So the rest is, small, medium, and big enterprises. So if we look at the comparing to other countries like Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, and Japan, we are still lower because today we are at the 3.47% of wirausaha, we call it, while other countries already higher than us. So if you look at the population, so actually 97% of the employee is coming from this UMKM or small and medium enterprises, while the contribution of export is 14%, and 23% already onboarding on digitalization, and the UMKM contribution on the national gross product is about 60%, and national investment is about 58%. So again, back to the condition today, which is a microeconomics, population is about 98.7%. It's just too fat, we call it, because majority of them is informal sector. They are not residing, and sometimes or most of them is just looking at whatever they have in their surrounding, and they are moving so fast, so changes so fast, and don't have good literacy on the business itself. While the UKM or medium enterprises, the condition is majority in the end product. So very easy to be caught by the big enterprises. And everybody want to be having their own brand. But we know that having the brand itself is very costly and quite expensive, and very minimal in the rantai pasok or the supply chain. Next. Oke, ini adalah kondisi UMKM pariwisata dan ekonomi kreatif yang terdampak oleh COVID-19. So if you look at this one, so we just highlighting the small and medium enterprises on the tourism and economic creative, which is impacted by COVID-19. So similar to the rest, which is they also expected the experiencing the slowing in sales, and they can do optimization on their business if they are in digitalization. But today they still conventional, and they need to adapt to the trend of the changes in the market. So like frozen food, and then all the medical equipment. While in the tourism business, like craft, handicraft, fashion, and food, they are also impacted by lowering the tourism or tourists, and then they do have quite high on the asset costs, asset maintenance costs, like the amenities, attraction, while their revenue is not that high comparing to before COVID-19. And virtual tour today is not yet there, so it's not fully adapted. So if you look at the economic creative in terms of year on business, so we can see that the impact. So only 8.11% not impacted, while the rest got impacted by COVID-19. So while if you look at the scale economic of, the business scale, so the COVID-19 impact is quite huge to the micro business, and then the small, medium, and big corporation. So as you can see, the 77%, for example, at about 70 to 80% impacted. So next. Okay, this is showing us how big is UMKM or small medium enterprises contribution to the national gross economic or gross product domestic. So if you see the food is about 55%, and the fashion about 24%, while craft 11%, and others is 10%. So in total, they contribute about 2,594 trillion rupiah, or 60% of 60.34%. So while if you look at the economic creative potential, and then their contribution to the PDB nasional is about 41% from the food industry, 17% from fashion, 14.9% from handicraft, craft, and others is about 27%. So this is quite big. So they also contribute about 1,100 trillion rupiah, so or 7%, 7.44%. Next. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is showing all the program that the entrepreneurs expect from other government or from us. So kita akan lihat bagaimana langkah yang dilakukan oleh pelaku. This is all based on the questionnaire. Yang pertama adalah menyampaikan produk dan service yang terbaik. So what we did is actually the government support the program hard skill upgrading, which is relevant to each subsector. So we also providing the technology help for the creating and the production. And we also open access to the manufacturing or international partner. On the second step is mencoba mencari jenis konsumen atau klien yang baru. So ini juga yang diharapkan oleh pelaku. Sementara yang diberikan oleh pemerintah atau support dari pemerintah adalah program pelatihan, inovasi, branding, dan marketing. Juga bantuan virtual exhibition dan penyebaran katalog. So ini basically effort atau support dari pemerintah. Dan yang berikutnya adalah pelaku perlu melakukan efisiensi biaya atau cost efficiency, dan support yang kita berikan dapat berupa pelatihan mengenai financial management ataupun bantuan hibah, ini untuk dana operasional atau rent atau sewa tempat dan lainnya. Yang berikutnya adalah mengoptimalkan channel-channel yang baru. Ini support dari pemerintah berupa pelatihan penggunaan e-commerce, pelatihan dan support digitalisasi pada pelaku aircraft. Dan yang berikutnya adalah mencari sumber pemasukan baru, mengoptimalkan sumber daya, dan menyimpan uang sebagai dana cadangan usaha untuk 1-3 bulan ke depan. Yang pemerintah lakukan atau support berupa pelatihan mengenai inovasi bisnis dan investasi keuangan. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, this is all the programs supporting by government or what government did for the all the entrepreneur. Next. Okay, if we are talking about the future SME, so what kind of the entrepreneurship that we are expecting to be in the future, which is based on the economic creative and very adapted to the digitalization or digital transformation. So the first ways face the disruption. Sorry, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, this is showing us what is the first wave disruption. We just went on the information and search engine. We all know that we have Google now. It's like you know, almost every day we open Google to find something. So this is search engine, and the e-commerce. We also know there is Amazon, Alibaba.com. If comparing to the conventional local retail, so this is disrupt the business. And ride-hailing platform like Uber, Grab versus local cab company, and food delivery like again back to Grab or Gojek. So versus the classic restaurant business model. So and then the content platform like Spotify, Netflix, if we compare to TV and radio. So basically, this all disruption that coming in the first wave, which is can you know, shake or change the design of the business model. So how about the entrepreneurship or small and business enterprises, you know, adapt to these changes? So that will be a very big challenge for us. Next slide, please. And Indonesia Digital Champions, we also have it. So as mentioned before, the first wave disruption, it's coming firstly from the e-commerce, which is today the transaction is almost 266 trillion rupiah, and the growth up to 26.6% per year. And you know, in the 2021, more than 337 trillion, which is we expect you know, growing to 1,736 trillion in the 2025. So this is e-commerce platform like Tokopedia, Bukalapak, Blibli, Bineka, and others is you know, now is big in the market, and they are still growing. The number second is, if we are talking about Indonesia Digital Champions, is ride-hailing like Gojek and Grab. So this physical and digital revenue pool in 2023, they are predicting about 62 billion US. So this is also very big from ride-hailing. While on the food delivery is physical and digital revenue pool in 2023 predicted to be at 76 billion US dollar. This is coming from Gojek and Grab, not to mention also from Traveloka and others digital champion. Okay, so next. So second wave will coming. So you know, is also coming. So if you look at the second wave disruption, saat ini memang kita sudah harus bersiap menghadapi gelombang kedua dari the second wave of digital disruption. So in the industry of agri-tech and food tech, so farm to table, precision farming, vertical farming, up to digital nutrition assistant is coming on the way. So we have to be ready with another disruption. On the health tech as well, so consultancy, early assessment can be done through digitalization. So like today, we already have it. So we have some platform on the you know, health tech, and while on edutech is education, which is you know, can be customized. So this is also is coming soon. Maybe today we also have in Indonesia an interactive experience and games. More than we call it more than just entertainment, but this is also can be done as communication media and for data collecting. And last but not least is digital banking and fintech. So peer-to-peer lending, equity crowdfunding, that is coming too. And we need to be ready. So all the enterprises to be ready with the second wave disruption. Next slide, please. So the second wave disruption can create up to 90 billion US dollar in value in the next 3 years. So it's coming from InsurTech, gaming, EduTech, so health tech and fintech. So again, the estimated value of gaming is about 40 billion. So in the next 3 years. Next. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, next is about the digital transformation dan resiliensi dari para pelaku small medium enterprises. So if we look at the number of transactions per day is about 3 million, sorry, and 54% growing in transaction value. So the 37%, this is pengguna or konsumen baru or new customer in the digital economy. So 37% is the new user or new customers, while 56% domicile or reside in the suburb or luar perkotaan, because not just in the big city but in the suburb. And if we look at the in terms of number, this will be pendapatan ekonomi or economic revenue from digital in Indonesia in 2020 is about 44 million US dollar or 640 trillion rupiah. And we project that based on projection in 2025 can be as high as 124 million US dollar or 1,700 trillion. So this is very big opportunity and very big amount on the digital revenue. So based on the survey on the 2021 from Kompas data, we see that UMKM daring sanggup mencetak pemasukan lebih tinggi 1.1% comparing to luring. So this is showing that the online businessman, online enterprise can get 1.1 higher revenue higher than conventional enterprises. So while the this online businessman, online enterprises also can sell to almost nationwide, so everywhere. Comparing to the conventional or luring, while the access to the export market, the UMKM daring or the online enterprises is also higher. Next, please. Oke, ladies and gentlemen, Bapak Ibu sekalian, ini adalah tantangan digitalisasi KUMKM pada hari ini. So we are expected to achieve 30 million go digital environment, enterprises in 2024. Jadi ini merupakan target yang diberikan juga oleh Bapak Presiden Jokowi, bahwa kita diharapkan pada tahun 2024 nanti kita bisa memiliki 30 juta target atau UMKM yang sudah go digital. If you look at today, with the low end literacy of digital and then small production capacity, low production capacity, and then the quality of the product is not inconsistent. And access terhadap pasar or market access is not yet optimal. So we need this is our challenge that we need to face, and what we need to do is we need to increase the kapasitas usaha, atau we need to build their capacity melalui penguatan database, peningkatan kualitas SDM, pengembangan kawasan. Ini yang harus kita lakukan, and then we need to grow di digital market melalui Gernas BBI, onboarding platform pengadaan barang, dan ini juga kita harapkan pengadaan barang melalui padi itu bisa dimanfaatkan oleh pelaku UMKM. Kemudian kita juga lakukan live shopping dan tentunya sistem informasi ekspor UMKM. So basically this is what we need to do in terms of increasing or accelerating number of go digital while the platformnya sendiri kita akan fokus di beberapa trade area. Jadi para pengusaha mikro itu kita akan optimalisasi di e-katalog dan onboarding media sosial. Sementara yang small business optimalisasi e-commerce lokal dan homogen. Dan untuk pelaku usaha menengah optimalisasi e-commerce global dan ekspor. So basically this is what we need to do starting today up to 2024 to achieve the 30 million go digital on onboarding UMKM. Okay. Next, please. Dan seperti apa pendekatan kita? So this is basically the concept, how we can achieve the target. Yang pertama adalah approach-nya melalui digital for rich customer, digital for get supplier, digital for back office or internal improvement, digital for data analytics, and last but not least, digital for logistic. So this is 5 approach that we are looking today. And object target can be a big corporation, big koperasi, and then warung-warung tradisional, pedagang kaki lima yang tergabung dalam asosiasi pedagang, kemudian petani, pedagang pasar, pesantren, nelayan, kuliner dan fashion. So these all the object for digitalization. Sementara kita juga bekerja sama dengan pendamping baik dari university, asosiasi, kemudian platform online, dan juga jejaring retail. So we expect that on 2024, we can achieve 30 million onboarding digitalization, 500 koperasi digital, kemudian 3.95 ratio of entrepreneurship, and then 17.6% kontribusi terhadap ekspor UMKM, dan ini yang akan menciptakan new economic value creation. So ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, next slide please. So this is what the future SME look like. So we try to do mapping on the business model masa depan. Jadi the future business model. Jadi kalau kita bicara hulu ke hilir, so this is basically the chain. So starting from R&D, kita lihat market insight-nya, kemudian ketersediaan akses dan bahan baku, kemudian mitra agregator untuk kita bisa melakukan R&D, dan setelah itu kita melakukan produksi. Yang diharapkan adalah factory sharing atau collective processing. Jadi produksi, kemasan, packaging, design, production, and so on. Of course, financial or financing menjadi salah satu yang kita juga perlu lakukan. Itu adalah melalui BPR, P2P lending, LPDB, dana bergulir, supply chain financing, securities, crowdfunding, and so on, and etc. Sementara dari sisi pasar, kita juga melihat adanya off-taker, kemudian logistik dan distributor. So basically, what we need, as a underlying the sumber daya manusia, so human resource, untuk start building the capacity, kita lakukan training, research, pendampingan, dan tentunya kita juga bekerja sama dengan kampus, inkubator, lembaga pendamping dan komunitas. This will be my end of presentation. So I do hope that we can work together, collaborate, and then see, what will be the future prospect. Ini sudah terakhir, selesai. Okay. So last but not least, thanks again for the opportunity for us to present today, and we hope that in today's, event, we can have a very good turnout, and then we are also welcome for any feedback to the Ministry of Cooperation, Small and Medium Enterprises. So last but not least, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sehat.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bapak dan Ibu, kita berikan tepuk tangan virtual, baik yang bergabung secara daring ya, Terima kasih kami haturkan kepada Ibu Insinyur Siti Azizah MBA selaku Deputi Bidang Kewirausahaan dari Kementerian Koperasi dan juga Usaha Kecil Menengah. Ibu terima kasih karena telah meluangkan waktunya, tadi juga sudah memberikan paparan yang cukup komprehensif untuk bisa dicerna bagi seluruh peserta dari Connecti 2021. I would like to say thank you once again to Ibu Siti Azizah as the Deputy of Entrepreneurship from the Minister of Cooperatives and Small and Medium Enterprises to the Republic of Indonesia who have shared her presentation which is very comprehensive. Thank you very much once again Ibu. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, saya tidak akan berlama-lama, tidak akan berpanjang-panjang lagi, saya akan langsung saja memanggilkan pembicara kita yang kedua. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you our second speakers for afternoon session. He is the co-chair of the T20 or G20 Infrastructure Investment and Financing Task Force and the co-editor of Intersecting Sustainable Responses to the COVID-19 Pandemic. And also the honorary member of Indonesia Creative Cities Network who has advised the World Conference on Creative Economy since its inception in 2017. Jadi pembicara kita yang kedua ini juga merupakan salah satu anggota kehormatan dari Jaringan Kota Kreatif Indonesia ya. Dan beliau juga salah satunya yang menginisiasi konferensi internasional tentang ekonomi kreatif ini. Please welcome distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Nicolas Boucho. Hello, Nicolas.
Bonjour, hello.
Bonjour.
Nice.
Thank you
Nice.
very much for taking your time to share your presentation with us, all the participants from Connecti City 2021. And you are joining us from Paris?
Yes, absolutely.
And what time is it now in your place?
Oh, it's 9 o'clock, so it's a very decent time to start the day, right?
Okay. So thank you very much. 9 o'clock in Paris time, tapi Mr. Nicolas Boucho ini sudah bergabung dengan kita, walaupun perbedaan waktunya juga yang cukup panjang ya. Jadi kita berterima kasih sekali atas kehadiran beliau. And you are going to present the Creative Economy 2030, localizing the COVID-19 recovery. Is it a forecast?
I hope so.
I hope so. Okay, this is going to be interesting and I'm sure that all the participants can't wait to see your presentation. So I will just give you the time, would you please?
Thank you very much. So you give me 10 minutes, right? Or 15 minutes?
15 minutes will be okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good afternoon or good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share a few thoughts about where we are going with creative economy. Indeed, my good and old friend, Governor Ridwan Kamil, has kindly introduced that topic. And I also wish to thank Indonesia Creative Cities Network for, I would say, continuous exploration and areas of progress of implementation of creative economy and the creative economy agenda, of course, in West Java, but also Indonesia-wide in Southeast Asia and in a global perspective. So if you would allow me, I've prepared some elements of presentation, but it's not really a presentation, it's more elements to think about and some recommendations on the way forward. So if you allow me, I will share my screen. Let's just do that. Yep. So I hope it's clear for everyone, right? You can see that. Okay, so the previous speaker from the Ministry of SMEs has mentioned two disruptions. I think in between those two disruptions, there is one unexpected and unwanted disruption, which is really the COVID-19 pandemic. This COVID-19 pandemic is really something that cannot be underestimated, especially when it comes to localizing responses and when it comes to thinking about future investment strategies. There will be a before and an after of the peak crisis. Governor Kamil said that the pandemic is now become endemic. And that's absolutely clear. But we can see also that we are still very much collectively, be it in Asia, be it in Europe, in the Americas, suffering from the impacts of over 18 months of unfolding of the pandemic. And pre-pandemic, it was commonplace to praise for disruptions like social disruption, socio-economic disruption, digital disruptions with the startup mode, and creative economy has been part of that. However, we can see that sometimes disruptions are also creating much more trouble than expected. And the social dimension of creative economy, the environmental dimension of creative economy, which might have been underestimated in the past years because of a premium to design, a premium to digital transformations, should be also should be among the priorities maybe of the West Java roadmap for creative economy, on the priorities of the network of creative economy centers, and also nationwide and even in a wider perspective. I am putting this here because part of the equation of the conference today is about the role of creative hubs to support a creative economy in a sustainable manner. This is yesterday evening at the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong, one of the very large real estate companies, Scenic Holdings. You probably have heard about another very large real estate company and construction group in China, Evergrande, which is in very big trouble. This is another one in Hong Kong, and the quotation was suspended because in just a few hours, the stock lost nearly 100% of its value. I am putting this to show that there is a lot of instability on markets. The issue of debts, be it of local and national governments, is a major issue. The issue of debts of private conglomerates is also a major issue. And especially when it comes to real estate industry, and which have been so important in pushing or supporting growth in cities and urban development corridors and urban regions. And sometimes it has been like assumed, right, especially after the 2008 crisis, global financial crisis and recovery in the past decade, that part of creative efforts would just derive from trickling effects from massive private investments. We can see at this very moment that it's not so obvious exactly how private money, especially sometimes easy private money coming from large conglomerates, will continue to trickle down if they have such an impact on national, regional, and perhaps the global economy. So one source of financing urban development and creative stuff in urban development might just be about to change, and probably my friend John Begin will elaborate on that too from London. So second remark is that what we are talking about today in terms of creative economy, right, has also a history. And since the turn of the millennium, the beginning of the 2000s, probably among the people who are hearing us today, some of the students in the audience were not even born at the turn of the millennium, when the issue of creative classes, creative cities, and creative districts have been created. And I am mentioning that because somehow we have been living with the growth of creative economy backed by these notions as part of agglomeration economics, infrastructure for connectivity, which have been largely supporting global urbanization in the past 20 years. But that too has been greatly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. And there is really a question of how concretely, I mean, nearly geographically, right, those notions will be embedded into the future of urban development. Probably, I would argue that we are necessarily moving from a kind of fancy, sometimes luxurious approach up to creative economy to a much more, I would say, grounded and needed equation behind the creative economy, which will require social inputs at a greater expense. It's very interesting. It is also very troubling because pre-crisis, and this is a series of graphs from our colleagues at the Secretary of the ASEAN in Jakarta. You can see that since the beginning of the millennium, there was kind of never-ending trend of growth of creative economy, nearly hitting the $1 trillion mark in terms of imports and exports of goods in all regions, even in the ASEAN region, if it was always a little bit late as compared with North America, Europe, or China. And this also was completely disrupted, right? The main disruption came from the COVID-19 crisis. You can see here the figures up until 2015. This has continued largely the same up until 2019, and then 2020, tourism and a number of MSMEs, and I would say the global economy, but especially creative economy at the crossroads of the formal and the informal economy was hit very severely by the crisis, and has not recovered, clearly not yet recovered. And the interesting thing here is that probably it needs in the future better connectivity between local and regional agendas. I'm thinking here, for example, about the strategy that is being implemented in West Java, about the creative economy bill in Bandung, and international efforts, sorry for the typo about creative economy, and international efforts. The plans were disrupted, the agendas are now much more mixed about climate, sustainability, and creative economy cannot be a standalone agenda. Then the question is about how to transform it. Pre-crisis, there was a kind of growing alignment of planets coming to the United Nations year for creative economy. Yeah, you can see the outcomes of the World Conference on Creative Economy, which was largely initiated and hosted by Indonesia. The orange economy also in Latin and South America, led by Colombia, all these converging to the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly 2 years ago, right? And then came the COVID. And the United Nations Year of Creative Economy in 2021 has absolutely not been and looked as it was planned. Even the role of UNCTAD, for example, which was supposed to be a driver, the United Nations Commission for Trade, a driver to support the development of creative economy, has not proven as, I would say, efficient as it could have been. So what's next? What's next is something that looks a little bit afar from the discussion about localizing the creative economy, but is not, right? For the first time this year, it was initiated by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia last year during the G20 Saudi Arabia. This year, the G20 presidency of Italy convened the Minister of Culture in Rome in July. You can see here the big show and communication about that in the Colosseum in Rome. But interestingly, the declaration of the G20 Minister of Culture from the end of July does specifically target not just culture at large, but also creative sectors as an important, significant part in national and international post-pandemic recovery strategies, recognizing that international cultural exchanges depend on strong cultural and creative actors in all countries. This is very interesting because this is a clever way, I think, to reconnect the creative economy with culture and with something which is essential, be about culture and living together in the pandemic era, in a recovery perspective that needs to be inclusive, but also in sharing values. Sometimes the creative economy tends to be just about figures, and it has to be about figures. But if you forget about the cultural ties, the human ties, and what unites not just the world, but together people in a given place, in a city, in a region, then creative economy is just it's just an economy as selling goods, as selling any kind of goods, a car, a machine, or whatever. This is not the case. And in this regard, the role of Indonesia in chairing the G20 next year, in chairing the ASEAN Secretariat in 2023 is absolutely critical. In 2020, we started to push for cities, right, globally, especially in the context of the G20, to have a say and have a common strategy to support creative economy with in a pentahelix approach with the academia, with the private sector, with civic groups and organizations, and municipal and regional governments. This year, we added another layer throughout the group of think tanks of the G20, the T20, by developing collectively with the United Nations organizations, UN Habitat, UNCTAD, with Citara Razati from the Indonesia Creative Cities Network, Janyu Begin, and several others, an important policy paper about the notion of creative economy 2030, including a resilient creative economy for sustainable development and recovery. When you get into the details, you cannot just talk about principles, you cannot just talk about purely the economy and recovery. You have to talk about jobs and the localizations and how to support in the future of trade agreements and in the future of recovery investment, specifically creative economy. So for this reason, the Asian Development Bank Institute, that is the Asian Development Bank, right, and the ASEAN Secretariat, we have jointly launched a call for policy papers earlier this year with a conference coming up in Tokyo. It will be online in the beginning of November about this question of creative economy 2030, imagining and delivering a robust, inclusive, and sustainable recovery. And I'm very happy that a number of Indonesian, I would say, thinkers and doers are taking part to that. But this is only kind of introduction of how to structure a number of arguments in preparation of the G20 of next year. The good news is that we received nearly 100 applications in just a few time during the summer. We were expecting maybe 30 or 40. So that's a good sign of the vitality and of the need of globally to support the creative economy. Together with a number of other organizations, including University of Indonesia, we have also launched another approach, which is called intersecting, right? Which includes creative economy, not just as such, but creative economy and the future of work, how jobs are going to be paid, how they will be located, and the impacts of digital transformations on job creation and job development, especially for, I would say, lower income communities, is absolutely critical. And somehow the future of creative economy lies in the intersections of global trade, regional development, local development, and there is a need to go deeper in that. So I would say that, answering the call from Governor Camille at the beginning about how to share good ideas, that this Connecti City conference is very important, since it gives us the opportunity to share regional, local, national, and global visions. And that next year, through the T20 Indonesia, the group of cities also of the G20, the group of the youth, Y20 and other, linked also with investment choices in infrastructure and issues of trade. There is really here something that needs to be underpinned, and probably the lessons and the examples from Java could well serve to move forward. Trade is definitely one very important part. And we need also to be very much aware, I will be very short on that because it's not the core of this afternoon and tomorrow conference, but that the more there are issues of selling submarines and warplanes and etc., and the more the tensions and the geopolitical tensions are mounting, the more creative economy, our drivers for culture, peaceful exchanges, at all scales to be also something that needs to be considered by government. So there is something very strong and very important here behind the issue of data and capital. And to finish with how important it is in these pentahelix or even more helixes models to ground the future of creative economy in the economy. Absolutely, it's absolutely critical, but also in culture. There was a very interesting and important summit in Turkey just about a week ago in Izmir, echoing the Rome Declaration on the future of culture and the delivery of the 2030 agenda, science building, knowledge building, the role of cultural institutions such as museums, the role of universities as hubs, right, of creative learning cannot be separated to this, I would say, reshaping of creative economy in a very polycentric approach and probably also in a much more socially conscious approach that is not just about wealth and unicorns, etc., but about how to share it and how about creative economy can be a booster for, I would say, self-made welfare in a number of communities, and also a booster for government policies supporting welfare and well-being in a post-COVID-19 perspective, to take into account the human capital and resources at all scales, especially at a community level. So these were the few thoughts, elements, and concrete milestones on the way to the G20 Indonesia. I was happy to be able to share with you this morning, and very happy to follow up on this conversation on social media, anywhere, and here if you have any remarks or questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nicolas, for sharing a very comprehensive presentation. And for your information, we have many of policymakers in West Java who have joined us at Connecti City 2021. And I'm very sure that your presentation, your sharing experiences can be very useful for them to actually make a beneficial policies in the future. So thank you once again. And for those of you, the participant who would like to share something to Nicolas or probably asking something, since we don't have any question and answer session, but we will let you type down at the chat column. Probably if Nicolas still with us, he can actually answer just a little bit. And if you want to share your thoughts as well, please do. Just type it on the chat column. Thank you once again, Nicolas. Have a good morning and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Kita berikan tepuk tangan Bapak dan Ibu secara virtual, boleh yang langsung hadir di sini juga boleh saya minta tepuk tangannya untuk pembicara kita yang kedua di sesi siang hari ini. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now move on to our third speakers for this afternoon session. And he is a very special person. He is the chairman of International Advisory Council of Creative Industry United Kingdom. Please welcome John Newbegin. Hello, John.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. It's a great pleasure to be able to join you. And I've been asked to speak about the evidence base for policy that's emerging from hubs and clusters. And I draw, in a way, no distinction between creative hubs and creative clusters. I think they're very much the same thing. So could I have my first slide, please?
Yes, please go ahead, John.
I'm hoping somebody can put my slide up. Thank you. So evidence-based policy, creative hubs and their impact. Can we have the next slide, please? We think of hubs as being a new phenomenon of the creative economy, but of course, hubs are the oldest form of human exchange, and the success of hubs is based on trust, on tradition, on dynamics which take a very, very long time to establish themselves. And so could I have the next slide, please? They do take a long time to establish themselves. This is a Hollywood studio in the 1920s. Not like Hollywood today, but my point in putting this picture up is it took the US film industry in Hollywood at least 20 years to establish a relationship with the banks based on evidence that encouraged banks to invest in film. So my point is that when we look at the way evidence emerges from hubs and clusters, now post-pandemic, as it was before the pandemic, we sometimes want things to move faster than they naturally will, and to draw attention to the fact that hubs grow for different purposes at different rates and different circumstances and at different speeds. So I think there are three basic ways in which we garner evidence for policy development, for public policy development from the way hubs and clusters work. They're practical experiments, there's action research programs, and there's pure research. And I want to talk very briefly about examples of each of those three areas in the UK that I think are relevant to your experience in Indonesia, and then draw some conclusions for the future from that. So could we have the next slide, please? This is an area in Birmingham in the center of England, which is called the Custard Factory. It was an abandoned factory, and in the 1990s, the city council gave a property developer a small amount of money, £800,000, in a deal to say, we will allow you to build houses, but in return, you must develop this abandoned factory. And over 30 years, the Custard Factory, and previously it was a factory making custard powder, the Custard Factory now has become the center of a very, very large scale regeneration of Birmingham. My point is that by an open-ended experiment with the city council giving a developer a small amount of money, over 30 years, that has absolutely transformed the way in which the city understands regeneration. It's generated thousands of jobs in itself, but it was not designed to be a research project to develop policy. It was a pure open-ended experiment. And sometimes I think we forget that in making the creative economy grow, it's worth taking a risk. It's worth experimenting into unknown areas to see what results come out of that we can learn from that. So then I go on to a couple of examples of action research programs, and perhaps we could have the next slide, please. So in London, we developed a concept that we call creative enterprise zones. And the rule for a creative enterprise zone was it must have 5 partners in order to bid to City Hall. And the partners were very much like your Helix model in Indonesia. It had to include the municipal authority. It had to include creative entrepreneurs. It had to include arts and cultural organizations. It had to include education organizations, and it had to include representatives of the community. Now, the creative enterprise zones were set up on quite a small area. The amount of money that we offered from City Hall was minimal. But the important thing that came out of that was the collaborations between the partners that were required to work together in order to access the designation Creative Enterprise Zone. And what happened was that existing funds were being used much more effectively because of that collaboration. And the chairman of one of the Creative Enterprise Zones said to me, because we had an informal governance structure, which involved the local authority, but was also driven by creative entrepreneurs, we were able to establish a relationship of trust with the community and with local businesses, which we would not have been able to do if it had been a purely government initiative. And I put this slide up because one of the creative enterprise zones in a very small part of one borough in London, and London is made up of 32 boroughs. Each borough has a population of around 200,000 to 300,000. So a creative enterprise zone was in one small borough. But because of this initiative of collaboration, which we encourage through that, what's happened now is that the 7 boroughs in West London are beginning to collaborate around the idea of there being the center of the screen industries for the whole of the UK. And during the pandemic, that element of collaboration reached such an intensity that when London Airport was effectively closed down during the pandemic, through these collaborations which had been developed, many of the pilots and cabin crew from British Airways were transferred across to work on COVID protection and COVID vaccination programs. So this idea of collaboration as something which has not just economic significance, but social and cultural significance has been core to the way that we're trying to develop policy in London. And could I have the next slide, please? So this is a map drawn by a couple of artists of a small town in the north of England called Wigan. It's part of the Manchester conurbation. And like many small towns in that part of England, it suffered terribly from deindustrialization. But 40 years ago, it had a very lively music scene. It was called Northern Soul, the style of music. And there were dance clubs, many dance clubs. They all began to close. And recently, during the pandemic, because of the decline in retail, the local shopping mall closed many of its stores. And the local authority decided to buy the shopping mall and to turn some of the empty stores into music studios. And as a result of this simple action, the whole idea of the Wigan sound, the traditional Northern Soul music, has been re-energized massively in the town. And this little map produced by a couple of artists is a walking map of the center of Wigan to allow people to visit all the places that were famous for the music industry 40 years ago. So it's connecting the tradition of that town with its present. And again, it is addressing not just the economic depredation in the town, but thinking about the whole issue of social and cultural identity for people. So it's bringing together the social, the cultural, and the economic. And it's now, in terms of the policy impact, it's leading local authorities to think, how do we use empty retail units, empty as a consequence of the pandemic, but also empty because shopping habits are changing, to develop new ways of using our civic public facilities for social, cultural, and economic benefit. And can we have the next slide, please? So then very briefly, three pure research experiments which have taken place in the UK, which have helped us to develop our creative economy policy. An organization called Nesta, a research organization, independent research organization, which some of you may be familiar with, undertook a study of what they call creative hotspots around the UK. And by analyzing traffic on meetup sites, on networking sites that connected creative people, many thousands of them, they identified 47 hotspots around the country, many of them spaces which previously had not been recognized as creative centers. And one of my points is, in terms of developing evidence and policy for the creative sector, much of what goes on is invisible. It's invisible because it's happening at a very small scale. It's invisible because much of it is digital. It's invisible because many of the entrepreneurs are either lone freelancers or micro businesses, and they escape the notice of the authorities. So drilling into the communication between hubs and clusters was what enabled Nesta to identify far more hubs than had previously been brought to public attention, if you like. But many other things that were discovered through that were that the size of creative businesses in England was actually declining from an average of 3.5 employees to 3.3. They also discovered that some of the smaller clusters were growing because of diversification, while some of the bigger clusters were growing through specialization. So some of these more detailed analytics coming out of a deeper understanding of the hubs and clusters has enabled us to develop much more targeted and focused policies that identify particular needs in particular areas. And can we have the next slide, please? And then based on that initiative, the Geography of Creativity, another initiative by the same organization, Nesta, looked at data on 200,000 websites used by creative people, an enormous exercise in scraping data. And on that basis, they discovered around 700 microclusters of creative activity. Again, many of them in small towns, in villages, places that had simply not been recognized before. And they also understood that, that these very small clusters, small though they may be, are growing faster than the economy in their regions and are generating jobs of around 220 metropolitan areas that they looked at. They discovered that in 90% of them, the small creative sector, and they identified a creative sector as any group of more than 50 related businesses in the creative sector, were generating jobs faster than the average for that area. So they were able to prove to local authorities, many of which were completely unaware of the existence of creative hubs and clusters within their area, that this was something that they could see as areas of significant growth. And can we have the next slide, please? And then finally, this is about a much bigger research project undertaken by the UK government's Arts and Humanities Research Council. And it's a £100 million, so it's a $130 million research program connecting universities with particular areas of business. And this is an initiative which was focused in the city of Leeds in the north of England, which used to be, but it's under pressure and it's declining. The purpose of the research was to say, if we draw together in a good dynamic, academics, business people, and the local community, can we rethink the way our fashion industry works in terms of materials, in terms of technology, in terms of fashion styles? It's a big project. And for example, there were 10 postdoctoral research fellows working on this research. A small amount of money was offered for companies that felt they could participate and contribute to the research, and there were more than 80 expressions of interest. And out of that has come a new institute for fashion and textiles, the Future Fashion Factory. Out of that has come new relationships with some of the big museums in London, as well as with local universities. And it is changing the perspective and the confidence of the textile industry in that part of England. So that's a piece of pure research which has looked at what was a declining industry and has started to turn it around and make it part of the future prosperity and future identity of that city and that region as it once was. So then if we can have the next slide, please. So briefly, and I'm sorry to have taken you on this whirlwind tour of what's happening in the UK, but I think in terms of how we develop policy based on evidence, these are some of the important issues to remember. Hubs vary in size, shape, and purpose enormously, and we cannot imagine that it's one size fits all. Secondly, it's the connections between hubs, the supply chains, the links, the meetup chat rooms where entrepreneurs get together that are as important as the hubs themselves. And for government at national or local level to understand these connections and linkages and networks is a way of identifying where there are hubs and clusters growing. We tend to look at the hub itself, at the cluster itself physically, but it's these connections and links that often give us the clue as to where growth is happening and where public support may be needed. Then thirdly, these initiatives cannot be driven by government alone or by business alone. They do require intermediaries. In Indonesia, you have the Indonesian Creative Cities Network, which of course has been one of the world's leading initiatives in this area, your whole concept of the helix. But I think this thing of, in the future, for governments to be thinking about how the community, creatives, and artists and education facilities are brought together as partners in developing policy is crucial. Then fourthly, open-ended experiment is as important as focused research. Sometimes it's almost like taking a bet, as they did in Birmingham, giving money to a property developer to develop a factory without any clear idea of whether it would work or not. But over 30 years, it's been enormously successful. So again, for government, both local and national, to be thinking as we move out of the pandemic, sometimes to just have a bold experiment rather than a focused research program can also deliver effective results for the future. And then finally, drawing the right lessons requires a diversity of perspectives and expertise. And again, it cannot just be a responsibility of government to define what policy emerges from evidence that's collected. It has got to be a collaboration between entrepreneurs, government, and education institutions, local authorities, the community itself. So those are some of the lessons that I draw from our experiments in seeking to develop policies in the UK that are more firmly based on evidence. And then finally, if we could go to just one more slide. Many of you will be familiar with this building. This is a picture taken at the time of the famous Bandung Conference in 1955. And I put this picture up because this may be a slightly crazy proposition, but I would like to suggest that in the same way that the Bandung Conference of 1955 was an attempt to develop a new way of thinking about the global economy, which at that time was not connected either to the capitalism of the US or the communism of the USSR, but was an attempt by the non-aligned movement to bring together countries and nations with a different idea of how they could grow their economy. And we're in a stage right now where, as we come out of the pandemic, we have the threat of climate change. We have growing inequality in the world. We have a crisis of youth unemployment. We have resource depletion going on. And thinking about how we develop the metrics and the models, the government methods, the policy development methods that will enable us to develop a truly sustainable economy is absolutely crucial. And it's in the creative economy that I think we are at the front end of this new thinking, because we all understand, all of us who are engaged in the creative economy, that you cannot just be thinking in terms of economic policy. There has to be an integration between economic, social, cultural, and environmental factors in developing policy effectively. So I would like to suggest that with the leadership that you already have through ICCN, with the prospect of Indonesia holding the chairmanship of the G20 next year, maybe it's time for a new Bandung conference to think, how do we use the evidence that we have that the creative economy is one of the fastest growing, most inclusive and sustainable areas of economic activity in the world? How do we make that the flagship for a new kind of global economy, which will enable us to enjoy a future that is prosperous, but is also sustainable, which is inclusive, and which allows us to celebrate the distinctiveness of our cultures, each in our own countries. So that's my thought for your conference today. Thank you very much for inviting me. I hope you have a very successful rest of the day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John, for joining us today. And thank you for taking your time to share your best practices to all the creative economy practitioners who have joined us at Connecti City 2021. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to all participants, please feel free to write down your comments on the chat column. Any comments, critics, or maybe suggestion or pretty much everything that you can share during this connectivity, you can write it down on the chat column. Bapak dan Ibu, para peserta silakan untuk memberikan tanggapan mungkin ataupun saran, apapun terkait dari presentasi para pembicara yang hadir pada sesi siang hari ini, silakan diketikkan saja di kolom chat. Karena kami pada hari ini tidak menyediakan sesi Q&A ya, atau sesi tanya jawab. Jadi silakan diketikkan saja di chat kolom ya. Baik, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have witnessed the three speakers who have shared their knowledge, who have shared their experiences, their best practices regarding this creative economy. We have heard the presentation from France and also from London, dan juga tadi kita telah mendengar presentasi dari Indonesia sendiri ya, yang diwakili oleh Deputi Bidang Kewirausahaan. So next, this is our last speaker for this afternoon session. Ini adalah pembicara terakhir di sesi siang hari ini, dan yang akan menjadi pembicara, he is a Managing Director Design Hub Bandung, a Board of Creative Entrepreneur Network, and also Exhibition Coordinator from Indonesia Designer, Craft Subsector at West Java Creative Economy Expert Board. Okay, now please welcome Kang Hari Mawardi.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sampurasun. So I like to introduce about Crazy Jabar, what we do since 2020 and especially in 2021 about how we try to create a program that responding to the current situation in the global world nowadays, especially about pandemic. So I like to start by introducing Crazy Jabar. Crazy Jabar is a non-structural institution government regarding the program about creative economy development. We're established by the governor since 2020, as been said by the governor previously. And we are focusing on how we try to develop the startup in creative economy ecosystem, and also in how we try to connect it the stakeholders of the creative economy nowadays. Can I have my slide, please? Okay, next. Next again, please. Okay, so as I mentioned before, that what we're trying to do in this situation, nowadays, Kreasi Jabar have a very big homework to try to figure the solution, not just about creative economic development, but how to how I say it, how to rebuild the ecosystem of economic creative that probably being affected by the situation of the global pandemic. Like we see that there's a lot of downfall in the creative industry, especially for the actors. More than 14,000 people are affected by the pandemic situation. But also because of the pandemic situation, we're trying to figure about the new opportunities that rising during the pandemic situation. Like, for example, the logistics business and then the digitalization are also become improving. And also one of them is also about the streaming consumption by the people nowadays during the pandemic, where everyone needs to stay at home and then needs to not mobilize themselves physically. So they try to find another form of entertainment through the streaming leisure, probably I might say. Next. So this is the data that we are achieving in this pandemic situation, where as we can see, there's a lot of achievement that we try to do in this 2021, where more than 9,000 potential market through online and offline platform that has been facilitated, and more than 4,000 products also being facilitated. And we can see also about how the all the facilitation are being developed in the creative centers, like we're doing the conference today in Cirebon, one of the creative centers that owned by the provincial government of West Java. Next. Next again. So when we're trying to solve the problem in the global pandemic situation, there's a lot of partners that we're trying to collaborate, where these partners came from international partner and also local and national partner. Most of them have the same vision about reintegrating the creative economy ecosystem, reconnecting, and also develop the situation and the scale of the startup focusing on creative economy nowadays also. Next. So most of the programs we're trying to facilitate through exhibition, both in offline platform or online platform. The conventional one is the one that we're trying to collaborate with the Disparbud Jawa Barat or the Tourism and Cultural Agency of West Java, where we're already made 3 programs in 3 cities, offline programs, that not only showcasing the products of the creative economy actors, but also the cities that we're trying to do some touring also, a roadshow. So 3 cities is Cirebon, like we're doing the conference today, and also Bogor, and also in Bandung, with 75 workshop participants and 626 online participants. This program called GECRAFT, or Gelar Produk Ekonomi Kreatif, or in English, it will say the Creative Economy Product Showcase. Next. And then also, as being mandated by our governors, that we're not only focusing on cities for creative economy, but we like to the village or also the suburban or rural areas in West Java can also be connected through creative economy. So the West Java Tourism and Cultural Agency create a program called Village Talk. It's been held in 4 villages with 70 workshop participants and 150 visitors to the platform of the program. Next. And also the one that we are held by, in the pandemic situation through online platform is called Wakunjar, is visiting time from expert. In 2021, we create 6 episodes from 16 experts that being held for 271 participants. We collaborate with many partners from international and national, and create some of the inspirational talk show that gives some solution to the current global pandemic situation, especially in creative economy. Next. This is the one that we are trying to develop more. It's called Kelas Kreasi, or Kreasi Classroom, where this is online workshop with fabricated curriculum dependent on the partners that we collaborate for each episodes. Nowadays, we have 5 episodes, and currently we're adding some more with other partners that we have, which every time the Kelas Kreasi is held, there's a new curriculum that we offering to the participant. For example, financial, and then cooperation, and then the one that currently being held is collaborating with Kompas. Kompas is a platform of database analysis, where they trying to show how to analysis the data market to be the baseline for strategic marketing and strategic business development. Next. Next. So West Java is one of the biggest provinces in Indonesia. We have 50 million people living in West Java. So that's why we need to circulate all the programs, all the regulations, and also the laws and everything. So that's why we're trying to create a platform that can reach everyone And it's an open source platform, web-based. It's called creasijabar.id, where we collaborate with ID Cloud House. And then since October 2020 until now, we have 659 active registered participants or workers or entrepreneurs, which 1,008 registered products is being showcased in this platform. So this is can be an open database where everyone can see the database of the creative economy stakeholders in West Java. They can see which cities that has the most creative economy actors in certain subsectors and everything. Next. So at this moment, we have a creative economy profiling research in collaboration with West Java Information and Communication Department. We're trying to make this research to profiling the characteristic of creative economy actors in West Java. Through this research, we learned that there's a lot of homework for us for the startup in creative economy. Not just startup, but probably the other established brands in West Java. For example, when we're trying to talk about digitalization, there's only 11% from our participant that already using e-commerce or marketplace. This is a very low conversion rate in digitalization, and it's something that we need to work it out to improving more, because nowadays, like many people said, or our governor already said before, that digitalization is one of the solution in this global pandemic situation. So this is something that we need to improve more. And then most of the creative economy workers are from high school graduates. This is also an education problem that we need to improve, how to make them become more competent in terms of qualities and also quantities. And 35% sell their products in their own regencies or cities. This is something that where the market share is limited in only their areas. When they try to scaling up or when they try to grow, it becomes something that a big homework for them, because when they wanted to improve the market share, they need to go or to sell it to other areas other than their cities and regencies. And 66% has an IP, and then 93% for most of them have a revenue maximum 300 million per year. It's something that we need to improve more, where we can at least achieve it tripled from the current revenue streams nowadays. Next. So other than profiling the economic actors, we're trying to also conduct a research about creative cities indicators. This is a research that being held by the West Java Tourism and Cultures Agency, were already being used in 2019. The same with the last Connecti cities, where in 2019, in the previous Connecti city, we also released the status of the cities and regencies in West Java in terms of creative cities indicators. In 2019, we only have 5 indicators, which is government support, community enthusiasm, supporting infrastructure, leading subsectors, and 5 is education. During the pandemics and the improvement of situation in global creative economy nowadays, we're trying to improve the indicators and then adjust some of them to become more precise and more sharp in terms of indicating a cities or a regency is a creative cities or not. So now we have 10 indicators, as you can see in the screen, where we're trying to focus more in several sectors that can be upgrade or upscaling the indicators for each cities. Because when in 2019, the indicators is not as many as we need. So a lot of them having bad scoring. So if the indicators is more precise, more sharp, then a lot of cities and regencies can focusing on several indicators that they are, how to say, more powerful in those indicators that they can work it out. Next. So in terms of circulating the program, when indicating the creative economy actors, the creative economy, the creative cities, and etc., the government, through the governors of West Java, Mr. Ridwan Kamil, have a dream where every cities or regencies in West Java have their own creative center. But now, because of the pandemic, we are being stalled by the development and the progress. So until now, there's only 4 creative centers that already active and can be used by the public or the communities or the startup to create an activation there in Bogor, Cirebon, Subang, and Bekasi. Next. So in the Creative Center, one of the things that we're trying to activate is to create a workshop that applicable to the Creative Center itself and also applicable to the actors that join the workshop. For example, the Creative Center in Cirebon and Bogor currently held a workshop furniture to fill the Creative Center, so the facilities are being made by their own people in those cities. Like, for example, in Cirebon, the potential of the furniture industry is very big. So we're thinking about why not they create their own furnitures in their own creative centers. So in this picture is the progress of the furniture that we're currently being made. And hopefully next month, all the furniture is ready and can be used in this creative center in Cirebon. Next. So in province level, we're very happy that we have a very complete regulation in terms of leveling. We have in national terms, we have a regulation called Rindekraf. It's like a roadmap or the creative economy development programs. And then in province, we have the law that being formalized about the roadmap currently in this year, 2021, is the government regulation number 44, year 2021, regarding the West Java Creative Economy Action Plan 2021-2025. Next. We have 3 goals, which classified in terms of human resources, in terms of education, and in terms of institutional agencies or non-agencies or non-structural affiliation in each cities and regencies. This cascading plan is to targeting in 2025, we have an accumulative people that being trained through a workshop with high competency base is have 11,000 people that join the capacity building program. And then 50 main programs circulating the collaboration between the creative economy actors. And then the goal number 3 is increasing the creative economy institutional spreading all over West Java in each cities and regencies, where we are targeting into 2021, we have adding 22 creative economy institution established and 192 cross-government collaboration regarding creative economy programs. Next. This is our priority programs, including the digital learning, creative industry platform, improving marketing accessibility, database and research networking development, creative economy institution activation, improving funding accessibility, and the last one is creative center activation. Next. So in 2021, we're trying to push the cities and regencies to create their own creative economy institution. In 2021, Subang, Purwakarta, Tasik cities, and Bogor Regency are adding another creative economy institution in cities or regencies level in West Java. So we have now more than 50% of cities or regencies in West Java have their own creative economy institution. And also the bill of creative economy is now we have add Bogor Regency and Bandung cities for adding the Cianjur regencies that already being regularized last year. Next. So to improve the appreciation from all of those targeting the creative economy actors, creative economy cities and everything, we're trying to create an award for the creative economy products called Cap Jabar. It's a curated amazing product Jawa Barat, where we're trying to labelize the products and the works from creative economy actors in West Java, so they can be more proud about their works and they came from West Java Pride. So the Cap Jabar can be a legalized label to improve their acceptance in the public, and the public will be more increasing their belief in those products and their works. Next. So this is one of the examples of the application of the labeling of creative curated amazing product Jawa Barat. Currently now we are focusing in Creative Media Awards for the Cap Jabar. It will be held, will be open for registration until 26th of September. And next month, we will award it the finalists of the best from the Creative Media Award in West Java. Next. So the last part of the presentation is about commerce. Like we can know that the creative economy, we have to focus, we're trying to focus in the economy sentence, because that's the one that makes the creative economy unique. How we create or added value to increase commercialization for the public and the actors itself. We're trying to create a program called Icalan. In Indonesia, it's called Inovasi Cara Penjualan, or in English, a selling innovation program. We collaborate with Digital Economy Indonesia, and we create a platform marketplace called borongdong.id. It's a closed loop marketplace for small medium enterprises in West Java, which targeting the market of civil workers in civil workers in West Java government. Since February, we have 4,262 member buyer that ready to buy the products from the website, which 9,127 ready stock products is also available in the platform, with 1,260 SMEs registered partner, and more than 50% of the products is already being sold, or currently it's on 4,857 sold products in Borongdong platform. Next. Not just from online platform, we are also trying to facilitate also the offline market, collaborating with IKEA, located in Kota Baru Parahyangan in West Bandung Regencies, a program called Teras Indonesia, where we're trying to collaborate the retail atmosphere of the IKEA by giving a platform for the SMEs to try to sell in retail platform, a big retail platform, so they can learn how to present their products, how to entertain the visitors and everything. In 3 months before the emergency PPKM is made by the government, from April to June, we have 5,462 total visitors, and 472 products is being sold in this Teras Indonesia. We're trying to improve more, and hopefully, because now the stores are already open, and also the visitors can now go shopping offline also, we're trying to increase the sales again for the Teras Indonesia. Next. After the Borongdong is considered succeed in their goals on online marketplace, we're also reaching out to other province. The first one is Bali. Last week we just launched the program with Bali government, and we're trying to sell also Balinese product in West Java market or in national market also. Now we have 459 ready stock products, And after the launch, we have 41 registered partner and 56 sold products in just, we launched the programs in Friday, and now we have already sold the products, 56 products. Next. And now the current program that also being run is a program called Udunan, Usaha Dukungan Keuangan atau financial support effort from the government, where we're trying to connect the startup or the creative economy industry that's not already bankable to have an alternative funding, not just from banks. So we're trying to introduce the peer-to-peer lending platform to our partners or our members in Kreasi Jabar to try to the platform of peer-to-peer lending. And now we have total registered 128 brands with total 1.5 billion rupiah fund application. And in the near time, probably in the couple of weeks, we will launch the selected brands that will be facilitated to be open in the marketplace of peer-to-peer lending. Next. So like our government, before the slide previously, so like our governor said in the launch of Beli Bali, the program of Borongdong collaborating with West Java and Balinese, and also the spirit that we seen from the morning session until now, we need to create less competition and more collaboration, because like the spirit of the Creative Hub is a hub for everyone to connect, to rejoin, to rebuild the creative economy ecosystem, and we're trying to create the more spirit facing the global pandemic situation, so we can restructure the whole ecosystem to a better way, to a new way, so everyone can be developing more in creative economy sectors. The last thing from me is thank you very much for all you listening to our presentation about Kreasi Jabar, and also about how we're trying to respond to global pandemic situation. And hopefully this is something that we can discuss more until tomorrow. And finally, we can have more solution like the governor said, and we can give some recommendation and feedback to the governors and also to our agencies, that we can create a new programs that will be more sharp and will be more useful for our creative economy actors and stakeholders all over West Java and also in Indonesia. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Sampurasun.
Rampes. Ya, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, itu tadi pembicara terakhir kita di sesi siang hari ini, Kang Hari Mawardi. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was our last speaker for this afternoon session. And before I wrap up all of this event for the first day of Connectivity 2021, we are still going to have one more agenda. We are going to see and witnessing the introduction of West Java Creative Cities Indicator and Prospect 2021. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, sebelum saya merampungkan keseluruhan acara di hari pertama Connectivity 2021 ini, kita akan simak satu agenda, yaitu pengenalan akan West Java Creative City Indicator dan Prospect 2021. Seperti apakah? Nah, ini akan langsung disampaikan oleh Bapak Agung Pasca Suseno selaku penanggung jawab atau pimpinan produksi dari Prospek 2021. Apakah sudah bergabung secara daring, Bapak Agung?
Sudah.
Sudah, baik. Bapak Agung, terima kasih sudah menyempatkan waktunya untuk hadir di siang hari ini, dan silakan mungkin untuk langsung memaparkan pengenalan ya terhadap indikator kreatif kota kreatif di Jawa Barat dan juga Prospek 2021. Silakan, Pak.
Ya, terima kasih Mbak Agi. Thank you for the opportunity, distinguished speakers, distinguished guests, and all the participants in Connectivity 2021. May I have my slides, please? Okay, so what is Prospect 2021? This is a book or a document to showcase the potency, the opportunities, and what is the recommendation for developing creative economy in West Java. Next. So the first part of this book is the profile and index. The profile will explain about the creative economy profile and the latest creative economy indicator in West Java. And then the second part is about sustainable development. This is aligning with the International Year of Creative Economy that we have to support and to develop a sustainable and resilient creative economy. Next. And then the last part of the three main parts of the Prospect 2021 is we want to ask all of the creative people in West Java to join the public nomination and public voting to showcase the most interesting, the best, the most likable maybe of the creative people to be showcased in the prospect of 2021. Next. So join us, call for the creative people to join. You can see the link below to join the Creative People Choice Award. Next. So this is a sneak peek of what the content in the prospect. So this is the creative cities and agencies indicator in West Java. Next. So we divided the cities and agencies in 6, you can say level or groups. The first group is Depok, Sukabumi, Cirebon, and Banjar, the level 6. And then next one is level 5. There are Subang, and then Indramayu, Kuningan, Majalengka, Bekasi, Pangandaran, Tasikmalaya City, and Sukabumi City. Next. Level 4 is Sumedang, Karawang, Bogor, Ciamis, Garut, all are regencies, and then Bekasi City. Next. Level 3, Cianjur regencies, and then Bandung Barat regencies, Bogor City, Purwakarta regencies, Cirebon City, and then Bandung regencies. And then the last one is the number 1 level. The last one, there are 2 cities, Bandung City and Cimahi City. Next one. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and back to you, Ms. Agi.
Ya, Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, itu tadi perkenalan dari indikator kota-kota kreatif di Jawa Barat dan Prospek 2021 ya. Tadi sudah dilakukan pengenalannya, launchingnya kapan kita nantikan kabar selanjutnya ya. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was the introduction of West Java Creative Cities Indicator and Prospect 2021, which will be launching anytime soon, so please stay tuned, okay? Baik, next before I wrap up this event for the first day of Connecti City 2021, I have a special performances for all the participants who have joined here at the Connecti City 2021. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, sebelum saya menuju ke acara penutupan di hari pertama Connecti City 2021, kami sudah mempersiapkan satu sajian penampilan yang menarik, yang tentunya ini beda dari biasanya dan belum pernah mungkin Bapak dan Ibu menemukannya di tempat lain ya. Sajiannya seperti apa? Kita berikan tepuk tangan dulu dong untuk Sinau Art.
Ya, selamat sore pada semua penonton yang online ataupun offline. Kami dari grup musik sampah plastik. Grup musik sampah plastik ini karena plastik itu mampu memberikan bantuan ke kehidupan kita juga, keseharian kita. Tapi di sisi lain plastik juga mampu membawa bencana ke dalam kehidupan kita. Karena sifatnya yang sulit terurai dan juga memiliki umur yang sangat panjang. Sampah plastik menjadi teror bagi manusia, menjadi bom waktu bagi kelestarian lingkungan. Jumlah sampah plastik yang semakin hari semakin meningkat dan juga umur sampah plastik yang begitu panjang menjadi ancaman yang nyata yang membuat keresahan dan kegelisahan bagi keberlangsungan makhluk di bumi. Bahkan saat manusia mati dikubur pun harus ditemani oleh banyaknya sampah plastik yang terkubur juga di dalamnya. Berangkat dari hal tersebut, kami mengembangkan sebuah karya seni dalam mengubah bentuk sampah botol plastik menjadi alat musik yang sangat unik. Kami percaya bahwa hal kecil yang kami lakukan untuk mengolah sampah plastik dengan bijak mampu mempengaruhi kelestarian lingkungan di dunia. Dan lahirlah musik sampah plastik yang pertama di Indonesia. Musik sampah plastik sebagai bentuk eksplorasi dari ide atau gagasan yang muncul dari adanya unconditional design di 2020 karena pandemi. Diciptakan oleh seniman musik Seroji yang berasal dari Cirebon dan didukung langsung oleh komunitas Sinau Art dan juga Taman Belajar Cikalong. Kami berharap dengan adanya musik sampah plastik ini dapat menginspirasi banyak orang untuk terus berkarya dalam keterbatasan dan terus berupaya dalam bijak mengelola sampah plastik untuk pribadinya masing-masing demi tercapainya zero waste lifestyle, sehingga bumi mampu terjaga kelestariannya dari banyaknya ancaman kerusakan dari sampah plastik. Pada semua penonton, selamat menyaksikan musik sampah plastik berkolaborasi dengan musik tradisi. Selamat menyaksikan.
Ya, Bapak dan Ibu, kita berikan tepuk tangan sekali lagi untuk musik sampah plastik. Yeah, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, that was musik sampah plastik or plastic trash music presented to you by Sinau Art. It is actually initiated by all the artists. It started from their anxiety about the plastic waste that is found everywhere. Plastic plays important roles in our life, but it is also become the biggest concern how we do with the plastic waste. So, based from that, and actually starting point, all the musicians created this musical instrument that you can see, so they can play it together. So you can see all the percussion and also the flute. It is made from the plastic waste. So it is an honor for us to actually witnessing them perform in front of our eyes today at Connecti 2021. Baiklah Bapak dan Ibu, hadirin yang kami hormati, kita telah sampai di penghujung acara di hari pertama Connecti 2021. Kami haturkan ucapan terima kasih kepada seluruh tamu undangan khusus, moderator, kemudian juga para pembicara yang telah hadir. Dan tentunya kami haturkan juga terima kasih untuk seluruh peserta yang telah meluangkan waktunya untuk menyerap ilmu dan juga belajar pengalaman-pengalaman baru di Connecti hari pertama 2021. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the first day of Connecti 2021. Thank you very much for all the honorable guests, the speakers, moderators, and all the participants who have joined us today. Please join us again tomorrow on the second day of Connecti 2021, and we will be starting at 1 p.m. Indonesia time, yeah, with various speakers as well and new knowledge and experiences to share. Bapak dan Ibu hadirin yang kami hormati, jangan lupa untuk bergabung lagi esok hari ya di Connecti hari kedua yang akan dimulai pada pukul 13 waktu Indonesia Barat. Tentunya kita masih akan menghadirkan pembicara-pembicara baik dari dalam maupun luar negeri untuk bisa men-share atau membagikan ilmu dan pengalamannya seputar pembangunan atau pengembangan ekonomi kreatif ya. Saya Agi Rahmawati selaku pembawa acara pamit undur diri. Mohon maaf apabila ada kata yang menyinggung atau kurang berkenan. I'll be signing off right now. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore, good afternoon, enjoy the rest of the day, and see you again tomorrow. Sampai ketemu esok di Connecti 2021 hari kedua. Ya, Bapak dan Ibu yang hadir online, ini rekan-rekan dari Sinau akan, ya, ini khusus bagi yang hadir offline ya. Ini akan dipindahkan ke depan, jadi Bapak dan Ibu kalau yang mau mencoba bisa, silahkan mencoba langsung saja mungkin sebelum pulang supaya ada pengalaman baru. Nah ini alat musik yang diciptakan dari sampah-sampah plastik. Jadi silahkan kalau mau pukul-pukul boleh coba, mau sambil difoto, di-share keseruannya hari ini di sosial medianya masing-masing juga silahkan ya.
you.